All right, welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about something every homeowner absolutely dreads. That moment when your home's climate control system, its unsung hero, just gives up on you.
I want you to picture this for a second. It's the hottest day of the year, right? The temperature is just climbing and climbing, the sun's beating down, and everyone in the house is counting on that beautiful, cool blast of air for some relief.
And then you hear it, a faint click, followed by nothing, just dead silence. The cool air sputters to a stop, and that feeling of panic starts to creep in, doesn't it? Okay, don't worry. We're going to dive right into this crisis moment and turn that panic into a solid, actionable plan.
So, to figure out the solution, we've got to understand the problem first. These HVAC systems, they work incredibly hard for us. We're talking long hours, day in and day out, especially when the weather gets crazy.
So let's take a real-world example. A place like Live Oak, Texas. From May all the way through September, you're looking at temperatures that are constantly above 95 degrees. That means these AC units are forced to run for 10, even 12 hours a day. Every single day. That's just a relentless, nonstop grind.
And that kind of constant grind, well, it takes a toll. It's kind of like asking an athlete to run a full marathon, but every single day. It wears down the absolute heart of the system, the compressor. It burns out crucial electrical parts like capacitors. It even clogs up its own arteries, so to speak, with mineral-heavy water from all that condensation.
But here's something you might not have thought about. It's not just the punishing heat from above that's the problem. Believe it or not, the very ground your house is built on can be a secret enemy to your HVAC system.
So why does that matter? Well, in places with a lot of clay in the soil, all that seasonal moisture makes the ground literally expand and contract. And this tiny, subtle movement, it's enough to crack or pull apart your ductwork. And you know what that means, right? You're paying good money to pump perfectly cooled air right into your attic or crawl space instead of your living room. Talk about frustrating. Okay, so the system is down. What now? Before you immediately pick up the phone and call for backup, there are actually a few simple things you can and should check yourself. It might just save you a service call.
All right, let's start with a classic. This is probably one of the most common and infuriating problems. You can hear the AC running. The fan is blowing, but the air coming out of your vents, it's room temperature, maybe even a little warm. Ugh. So what on earth could be the cause?
Well, the issue could be something super simple, like a dirty air filter that's just choking off the airflow, something you can totally change yourself in like 2 minutes. Or it could be a sign of something a bit more serious. We're talking low refrigerant from a leak or an evaporator coil that's turned into a giant block of ice.
Okay, here's another big red flag. You walk into your utility closet, and there's a puddle of water where there should not be a puddle of water. This is a big deal because water damage can get serious fast. So let's figure out what's likely going on here.
More often than not, the culprit is a clogged condensate drain line. See, all that humidity your AC sucks out of the air has to drain somewhere. But if that little pipe gets blocked up with gunk, algae or mineral buildup, it's going to back up and spill over. And trust me, you want to address this one immediately to prevent some really costly damage to your floors, your drywall, the whole shebang.
All right, so you've done your due diligence. You've checked everything you can. Maybe you even changed the filter, but the problem is still there. Yep, it's time to call in a professional. And look, this whole process shouldn't feel like some big mystery. A good tech is going to walk you through it and be totally transparent.
So a really smooth service call usually follows a clear, simple process. Step 1 is a quick, accurate diagnosis to pinpoint the exact problem, and they should give you a firm price quote right then and there. Step 2, once you give them the green light, is the expert repair, and hopefully they've got the parts right on their truck. And finally, they're going to test the whole system to make sure it's running perfectly again. Simple, clear, no surprises.
And now, we get to the big one. The $5,000 question, sometimes literally. The tech has found the problem, but it's a major one. This is that moment every homeowner with an older system eventually faces. Do you sink more money into repairing it, or is it finally time to just replace the whole unit?
This is a really tough call, right? So to help out, there's a pretty handy industry rule of thumb that can take some of the emotion out of the decision. It's called, simply enough, the $5,000 rule.
So here's how it works. It's really simple. You just multiply the age of your unit by the cost of the repair. So for example, let's say your system is 12 years old and it needs a $500 repair. You multiply 12 times 500, and that gives you $6,000.
Since that number is over 5,000, the rule suggests that, financially, replacing it is probably the smarter move for the long haul. Let's just break this down so it's crystal clear. With the repair, yeah, the upfront cost is lower, but you're still stuck with an old, inefficient unit that could just break down again next summer. A replacement, on the other hand, is a bigger investment for sure. But what do you get? A brand new, super efficient system, a warranty, lower energy bills, and most importantly, peace of mind for years to come. So, we've talked about how to navigate the crisis, right? But the real lesson here, the big takeaway, is that the absolute best way to deal with an emergency breakdown is to make sure it never happens in the first place.
You know that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? Well, it has never, ever been more true than with home maintenance. A little bit of proactive care can seriously save you a mountain of cash and a whole lot of frustration down the road.
The cool thing is, you actually have the power to extend your system's life and keep it happy. We're talking about simple, proactive steps. Things like regularly changing your air filters, super easy, and getting professional tune-ups before summer and winter hit. These little things can save you from that horrible, silent moment when the cool air just disappears.
When you think about it, you're really choosing between two different paths. On one path, you've got a neglected system. That leads to surprise breakdowns, crazy high bills, and you just know it's going to fail on the hottest day of the year. The other path, that's a maintained system. That one leads to reliability, efficiency, lower bills, and you being in control.
So we're going to leave you with this final thought. Your home comfort system really is an unsung hero, right? It's working tirelessly in the background for you all the time. The real question is, are you giving it the support it needs to be ready for its next big battle with the weather?